Hi, welcome to the Office of Global Engagement's update on immigration orientation for this coming school year. We want to welcome you to Utah State University and are excited to work with you to ensure that you maintain your status now and throughout your program. In today's webinar, we're going to be going over how you maintain your immigration status and how that impacts future opportunities like the ability to work, including optional practical training, academic training, or even the STEM optional practical training and curricular practical training. There are a lot of benefits to students who have maintained their status beyond employment, but those are some of the things we're going to focus on today.
So by this point, you may be familiar with this Student Exchange Visitor Information System, or SEVIS. This is the database system that the U.S. federal government uses to maintain information regarding international students and scholars in the United States of America. Utah State University has certain responsibilities in relation to SEVIS, so we actually update and maintain information in SEVIS, especially regarding changes to a student's status, their enrollment at our university. We report any changes in address, phone, or email addresses, and we have to do that within 10 days of such change. We also update information regarding the student themselves and their dependents. The way we do this at Utah State University is through our banner system. So if you go to myusu.edu, you can actually update your information clicking on the banner and then scrolling down to view and edit personal information. Here you're going to want to add any new information. What we do is we pull in the information from your mobile or primary phone number and add that to SEVIS. And your mailing address should be your current local address where you are living. That is the information that once it's updated in here, it goes into our system, and we then transfer that over to SEVIS.
So all of you were issued a few documents as part of your welcome and introduction to Utah State University. Every student should have received either an I-20 or a DS-2019. An I-20 is if you're here at Utah State University on the F1 visa, and the DS-2019 are those who are on our J1 visa. So as it pertains to those documents, what allows you legal status is making sure that they never expire while you're here. Your passport should always be valid 6 months into the future. So if you get within that range, you should be working with your embassy here in the United States to renew that passport. Or if you have plans to travel, you want to make sure that you do that in a timely manner so your passport never expires. When it comes to your I-20 is issued by Utah State University, and it's issued based on a standard program period of time. And so sometimes students are not able to complete their program within that period of time, and we need to do what's called an extension on their I-20. And so that request needs to be done prior to that program end date. Other documents that you receive include the visa. Now the visa is really important in order for you to be able to enter the United States and to be present at Utah State University. But once you arrive, that visa is important as it pertains to travel, maybe to go home to visit family, but that visa is your ticket into the country. Once you're here, it's okay if your visa expires. It's just going to be an issue if you travel after it's expired. You're going to want to make sure that you renew it so you can return. So the things about your documents is that the visa, is so important, but it can expire. You just want to make sure that if you exit the U.S., that you have a plan in place and you have the time it takes to renew that visa so you can return for, say, the next semester or during a Christmas or holiday break. Now, reviewing your I-20. Every student has what's called a SEVIS number, and that SEVIS number is what we look for in your profile. You pay what's called the SEVIS I-901 fee. The SEVIS I-901 fee makes your record viable for us to validate. And on your I-20, when you received it, you should have looked to see that your name your birth date, your country, citizenship, and other information are correct. Sometimes students will have a spelling error and they won't see it. Once you arrive, we can make those adjustments, but it should match your passport. So do look at the top of your I-20 or your documents to make sure that it's accurate. Below that, you're going to see school information for Utah State University, and then you're going to see program information for your major. That major is really important because it has what's called a CIP code, and that CIP code determines if you're eligible for some of the STEM benefits after your degree. That CIP code is not something that we pick, it's something that your department and your program have determined are a good match. So sometimes the name for that CIP code may not accurately reflect maybe your major, but it is a code that's been assigned to your major. So do make sure that that's correct, and if you have any questions about that CIP code, talk to your immigration advisor. Below that, you'll see your finances that you provided. If at any point your finances change, we want to update that. So if you get funding from the department, we can update that. If you were sponsored by your government and that changes, we can make those changes there. On an I-20, the travel signature is on the back of the document. So in order to travel, you need to do what we call a travel signature request in our International Student and Scholar Services portal. If you haven't signed the front of your I-20, make sure that you do that now, because you are agreeing to the terms of the F1 I-20. And if you apply for benefits later on, you want to make sure that that document was signed and signed within, when you received it, ideally. If you're here at Utah State University on a J1 visa, you received what's called a DS 2019. Similarly, you should have reviewed this when you received it to make sure all the information is accurate, including your biographical information, your name spelling, your date of birth, your city of birth. Make sure that that's accurate, so if we need to update it, again, it should match your passport. Below that, you'll see program information for Utah State University, including what your purpose of being here. You'll see our program information, and then you're going to see the program start date and end date. Again, if you need additional time to complete your program, you'll need to request an extension in the International Student and Scholar Services portal prior to that program end date. In the next field, you'll see the purpose for your exchange visitor category. So you'll see student and then the degree level that you're seeking at USU. If you have any changes to program information, again, talk to your immigration advisor. Below that, you'll see our signatures, and you'll see another box that is talking about kind of the endorsements from the consular officer. Sometimes these boxes are marked accurately. Many of our students who attend Utah State University may obtain what's called a 212E on their DS 2019. Under this consular office section, the consular office will mark the appropriate boxes, but sometimes we see that this is not the same as your visa. So it's valuable to take your visa out and look to see if you have the 212E requirement and compare it to your DS 2019. In the far right corner, your travel signature. So if you plan to exit at any time and return, you need to obtain a travel signature from your immigration officer. Those are valid for 1 year. So it's always good before you travel to make sure that you talk to your immigration advisor to make sure you have the proper documentation and the proper signatures. And lastly, again, you want to make sure that your document is signed. So if you didn't sign that as part of your embassy interview, do that now.
Now, the I-94 is a number that is generated when you enter the U.S. You can actually download it by going to the U.S. government's website, and every time you enter, you're assigned a new I-94 admission number. By going to the U.S. government website, you just go to Get Most Recent I-94, and then you enter your personal information and obtain your Form I-94. This Form I-94 has a lot of information, including the admission record number. And then in this case, it tells that class of admissions. We want to make sure that you have been admitted as either the F1 or J1 student. We do have some times where the Border Patrol officer may erroneously enter a student in a different class of admissions, and we can work with you to get that corrected. The reason that is important is the intent that you're in the United States, and also this admit until date. In the case of students, this is usually says D/S, meaning duration of status. That means that there's no end date as long as that I-20 or DS 2019 document is valid and you are participating in a valid program in the United States of America.
While you're at Utah State University, part of maintaining your status is making sure that you're properly registered each semester. For undergraduate students, that means you're taking 12 credits. For graduate students, that means you're taking 9 credits unless you have an assistantship. If you have an assistantship, you're able to drop down to 6. And if you're in our Intensive English Language Institute, you need to take 18 credit hours. The reason why this is an important piece is that we have to show that you are meeting physical presence requirements each semester. So as your immigration advisors, we actually monitor your registration and we report that in the SEVIS profile. Just like Shelley said, we have to report your biographical information within 10 days. We have to report your registration at the start of each semester. So making sure that you register early and properly in a timely manner helps us make sure that your record is accurate. During the times of COVID-19, registration options may change, and you want to make sure that you're following the guidance at that given time. So it may be that you can take more online classes. Right now, you should kind of reach out to your immigration advisor to make sure that you are meeting those minimum requirements. What we are doing for COVID-19 is that we're maintaining physical presence requirements by requiring 3 credits of on-campus delivery courses. So if you have questions about what courses meet on-campus delivery, you can visit USU's website and look at campus delivery methods. All of our J1 students are required to maintain all classes face-to-face. So if you're a J1 undergrad, you need to take 12 credits of face-to-face. If you're a J1 graduate, 9 credits. And you don't have the option to take any online unless it's in addition to those minimums. If at any point you are struggling or face an issue and you need to change your course registration, I would reach out to your immigration advisor to make sure you understand the implications of dropping classes or changing registration. If at any time you drop below those credit minimums or you don't meet physical presence requirements, we are required to terminate your I-20 for inaccurately registering. So make sure you maintain proper registration throughout the semester and make an appointment when you have questions or concerns. One of the things that is important to understand is the reduced course load, which we often refer to as an RCL. A reduced course load option is available to all students in their final semester. This is the most common use of the RCL. If you've completed everything else and only have one class to take, you want to make sure that you complete a reduced course load request in the International Student and Scholars Portal because it is your final semester. And then we report this to SEVIS as a reason why you're taking fewer than 12 or 9 credits. When you first arrive on campus, if you experience difficulty with English teaching methods or reading responsibilities, or if you're improperly placed in a course, that is also an option for a reduced course load form. That reduced course load form for those reasons is only available to you in your first semester. The last is the medical. If you have a reason that you are unable to attend and you have proper doctor's notes, we can look to see if you're eligible for a medical RCL. Hopefully, you have no injuries while you are here. If you are a graduate student, the options are very similar. If it's your final semester, if you have a medical issue, But the other reasons that exist for the RCL are if you've completed all of your program credit requirements. So say if your major requires you to take 30 some odd credits and now you're taking research credits, you could do the RCL to drop down from 9 to those 3 research credits. We are going to require that you always be in a minimum of 3 credits face-to-face each semester. The other reasons would be if you finished your program of study and say it's a defense semester or you've registered for the grace semester. Both of those options would be viable to use the reduced course load form. If you have an assistantship and you're registering for just 6 credits, you do not have to complete a reduced course load form because we can see your assistantship in your International Student and Scholar profile.
Now, the Exchange Visitor Program, or the J-1 Visa Program, has certain restrictions. Understand that the U.S. Department of State oversees the Exchange Visitor Program, and they're very concerned about the health and safety and welfare of their participants. And so they've added some additional restrictions to protect participants while they're present in the United States. That restriction includes flight programs, employment or classes that involve hands-on clinical care practice, or teaching without direct supervision in a classroom. We've also addressed that students must be enrolled full-time in those face-to-face credits. The U.S. Department of State requires us to provide you with contact information so that you can contact them directly if you have any concerns about your program of study or your time here in the United States. We also encourage you to reach out to us as your primary immigration advisors. We can help you with a lot of issues, especially if they're directly related to your experience at Utah State University. Now, you may or may not be familiar with our ISSS, or International Student and Scholar Services portal. We want you to be familiar with this because this is a one-stop shop that has a lot of information available to you to help you understand your immigration benefits, requirements, and what you need to do. Here on the portal, you can find student forms that allow you to submit a request to your primary immigration advisor. Additionally, these forms include learning content, which provide a lot of information about the specific request or procedure that you are initiating or submitting. We also have a tutorials page, which allows you to see information and gain additional information related to specific topics. Furthermore, we have a student frequently asked questions page where you can see information based on questions which we receive frequently. As for employment, you as an international student can work on campus for 20 hours a week during the fall and spring semesters. During the annual vacation semester, which is summer, you can work up to 40 hours per week on campus. You can also work this 40 hours per week on campus during our winter and spring breaks. Now, you are here in the United States primarily to study, thus your employment opportunities are restricted such. For any other additional employment, you have to actually apply for specific and authorized permission. Optional practical training is a training that you are eligible for as an F1 student at the end of your program of study after completing your program at Utah State University. You apply directly to the United States government for this authorization, and we can help you with that process. Curricular practical training allows you to work in a field or in a position directly related to your program of study while you're studying, essentially an internship. This one has to be directly related to your program of study, and it must be an integral part of your program of study. This means that we need verification from your department that you need this in order to graduate. Finally, there's economic hardship. This is something that you apply permission directly to the U.S. government for permission to work off campus because circumstances have changed such that you are not able to fund your program of study as you had originally intended. This requires a lot of documentation to prove such need. For J-1 visa holders, you are eligible to work off campus under the guidance of academic training. Again, you need to apply to our office using the ISSS portal using the form in order to obtain such authorization. We have information about these employment opportunities on the ISSS portal in the tutorials page, as well as information within the learning content.
One of the things that we would like to highlight is the DUI visa revocation. What's important to understand is, an international student, you are held to both state and federal laws. The legal drinking age in the US is 21 years old. This may be different from the drinking age in your home country, so you want to be careful that you are not drinking under that age, or you will be charged with what's called a minor in possession. And this has implications, legal implications, but also can cause you a lot of grief for other reasons. The other thing is what we call a DUI, which is driving under the influence. So a DUI you can get at any age if you are over the legal alcohol limit. One of the things you should find out is, what is that legal limit? Because it does vary from state to state. But regardless, you want to make sure that you never find yourself behind the wheel of a vehicle and driving, because you are driving while intoxicated. And what you can get pulled over for by our local police is driving under the influence. So driving under the influence may mean that your visa will be automatically revoked. It doesn't mean that you have to exit the country. It doesn't mean that you can't finish your degree. Other legal considerations you might want to talk to your immigration advisor about is, say you have an arrest or a warrant or a speeding ticket. Sometimes you might have to appear in court. None of these things should be too scary, but because we are not attorneys, we might refer you to legal advice. So don't be afraid to come in and talk to us. We are happy to help you find resources, but also answer questions. One of the things that we like to point out is that Utah is also different from many other states when it comes to the use of medical marijuana or recreational marijuana. Utah approved the passing of a medical marijuana use with a medical marijuana card. That has to be obtained from a doctor. And though it is something you could do, it is still a federal offense. Since you are issued a visa that asks you to adhere to local and federal laws, we would recommend that you avoid any medical marijuana use, because it has that contradiction between the state and federal law. Whenever you think you're in danger or you feel like your status may be impacted by some outside choice, come and talk to us. If we can't help you, we will direct you to someone who can. If you need to file a police report, we can assist you with that. But I wouldn't be afraid of our local law enforcement. And if you do get pulled over, be gracious and do not lie. Now, other things that happen, often our international students are targets of fraud. One common fraud that we hear about is that students will be notified after applying for Social Security that if they don't do something, that they're going to be deported. Be aware that you're not going to receive a phone call from the Social Security office or from the IRS or from many offices asking you to pay money or asking you for personal information. You're going to be calling them and providing that information, but they're not going to be contacting you. Most mail that you receive from a formal government office is going to be mailed to you. And if ever in doubt and you're concerned, you can contact our office. But if you do have someone who contacts you and provides you fraudulent information or makes you provide personal information, you want to report that to USU Campus Police. USU Campus Police will give you information, they'll document your call, and though there may not be anything that they can do to prevent this fraud from happening again, it does let them know that it's been reported and helps us understand some of the issues our international students face. In addition to fraud, one thing that you can do to set up and protect yourself is set up a security phrase. That security phrase can be established at myid.usu.edu, and it is used by a lot of different offices. If you contact the registrar's office, they will ask you for your security phrase. So it helps us as administration help you by verifying that it's you calling and not someone pretending to be you. So do set up a security phrase and do make sure that you protect your identity. So general takeaways. You want to make sure that you're always fully registered and meeting that general physical presence requirement for each semester. You want to make sure that your documents, your passport, your I-20 or DS-2019 do not expire while you're here in the US. You want to make sure that all work that you consider has been authorized first. Authorization of work is so important because it is one of the largest issues students face when they look at maintaining status. Illegal work is cause for termination. So make sure that you stop and visit our office first before continuing or accepting any position. You want to make sure that you keep your biographical information up to date. If your major changes, if your address changes, if you decide to use a different email, we need to receive that information within 10 days. And that again is done in your myusu.edu account. Watching for fraud, always be skeptic. If someone is asking you to provide personal information, make sure that you don't. Watch out for fraud. If anyone asks you to provide personal information or asks you for money, likely this is a fraudulent phone call or email. We always recommend hanging up. You don't have to be nice to someone who is asking you for information you're uncomfortable providing. If they really need to reach you, they will send you mail to the address that you have on file in SEVIS. We do recommend that you stop by our office regularly, whether that be online or by phone or in person when it allows. We have a friendly staff here that's ready to serve and assist you and get you connected to the right person. We have on our website a list of all of our staff, but also you can make an appointment with the staff that take walk-ins or regular appointments. You want to make sure that when you make up an appointment that you reach out to your primary advisor, and the alphabetic breakdown is on our website. If you do call us, it's always helpful to tell us your name and possibly have your A number ready and your security password. If you see us on campus, don't feel bad if we don't know your name. We help a lot of international students and we're often great with faces, but sometimes we need a little help. We hope that you will say hi to us when you see us, and we hope to do the same. Again, we want to thank you for joining us today and welcome you to Utah State University. We know that you're going to enjoy being an Aggie, and we look forward to your continued success. You can reach us by telephone, you can visit our website, or you can email us. In addition, if it allows, you can also stop by our office. We have regular pickup hours in the afternoons, but those schedules may change, so the best place to start is our website. Many requests can be done through the International Student and Scholars Portal, so before you call, best to look to see if you can find the answers on our portal. Again, thank you for joining us, and welcome to your Utah State Aggie experience.